What is far deadlier than most people realize? Trucker here. I've had 2 blood clots in my legs from driving long distances and having my leg pressed against the corner of the seat for hours on end. One almost killed me. Apparently it's very common with truckers. You're supposed to stop and walk around every hour and a half to keep things circulating, which almost nobody does due to time constraints. The same thing happens in gaming chairs apparently. People forget to move their legs because they're so focused on the game. You don't need to worry so much if you're younger, but if you're a gamer who's a little older, please be aware. Deep vein thrombosis, DVT, is a well-documented effect of long-haul flights too. Which is why pilots who fly long-haul and ultra-long-haul flights lasting more than 10 hours wear pressure socks. Passengers are advised to walk around the cabin once every few hours. With flights lasting up to 18 hours, this is a necessity. Get the blood moving. If any of these clots somehow dislodge and reach your heart, it is goodbye. The problem isn't with the clots reaching your heart. Once dislodged, the clot travels up the veins and through the heart and into the pulmonary artery, where it will get stuck in the lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism, which can be lethal if not treated promptly. Holding your breath while scuba diving. To most people who don't scuba dive, it may sound harmless, but if you hold your breath and ascend even a little over a meter, you can suffer major lung damage as a result of the gas in your lungs expanding from the lessening pressure. When I was training to dive, my instructor took a gallon milk jug down with us, and he filled it half full with air and brought it upwards, explaining what he would do before we went down. It didn't take long before it filled completely with air and blew the cap off as we were going up. When we got to the surface, he said, "Imagine that was your lungs." This might be a super dumb question, but how do you fill a milk jug half full of air? Was part of it squeezed to make the volume of the jug smaller? You're underwater, so the bottle is full of water. Turn it upside down and release air from your dive equipment into the neck of the bottle. The air will force the water out, and as long as the bottle is upside down, can't get out. Put the top on, then start surfacing. Visine. People seem to have this idea that a few drops of Visine in someone's drink will give them diarrhea and do it to prank each other or get some sort of satisfaction with petty revenge. People are sitting in prison for murder for doing this. The main active ingredient is called tetrahydrozoline. Once it enters your gastrointestinal tract, it can be absorbed by your intestines and end up in your blood, causing your blood pressure and heart rates to drop to potentially life-threatening levels. It really makes me wonder how many people have died due to people copycatting that scene in Wedding Crashers. In high school, a kid that I knew, not really a good friend, but same social circle, gave me a Gatorade and told me I could have it because he didn't like the flavor. I split it with my friend and we happily drank it all down. The next period, some of my classmates were acting real weird and kept asking how we felt. Eventually one of them told us that he had put a ton of Visine in the bottle. We go to the nurse expecting to be sick, but then she looked up the ingredients and effects and yup, it can kill you. Both of us that had drank it ended up in the hospital with extreme lethargy and trouble breathing. I ended up sleeping for about 16 hours straight. I obviously didn't want my friend to get hurt too, but in a way it was a blessing, as if I had drank the whole thing myself I could have easily died. Just want to throw a story out here. I'm a dentist. I have a colleague who had a patient that needed a root canal. The patient put it off. He had a vacation coming up. He was going to Alaska in bush country to go hunting. By himself. Now Alaska bush country means you are alone. He was dropped off and his ride wasn't going to come back to pick him up for a week or two. Well, after his ride left, the tooth he needed to get his root canal on blew up. Had severe pain and was all alone, no one to help him in the middle of nowhere. This was mid to late 90s, so no cell phone either. Well, his ride came back to pick him up. Finds a dead body. The guy killed himself. He couldn't take the pain anymore. Pain was so bad he couldn't wait the 1 or 2 weeks for his ride to come back. Shot himself, left a note telling his story. Moral of the story: don't put this off. There is no pain like tooth pain. I had my first dentist appointment at 15 because my doctor threatened to call CPS. Got my 6 front teeth removed. Fast forward 10 years of brushing to no effect, and I just got all the rest out a month ago. 4 support teeth rotted away, 90 degrees impacted molars, and only one that was worth salvaging. Take yourself to the dentist, but especially take your kids to the dentist. No one should have to go through what I did. I'm sorry to hear your story and I wish you all the best moving forward. I'm a dental assistant with my own fair share of dental issues that all stem from not getting adequate dental care when I was younger. Stories similar to yours are not uncommon, unfortunately. When you're young, it's hard to understand the importance of dental care, especially with no one guiding you. Help kids help themselves. Abscess teeth can kill you. I work in a dental office and the amount of people who brush off an abscessed tooth is way too high. I have one patient who had an abscess for 4 to 5 years and never got it taken care of because it didn't hurt. It would swell up periodically. He claimed it was due to his sinus issues. Repeat over and over. Well, finally he comes in as an emergency with the entire side of his face swollen up like crazy. My boss personally called the oral surgeon to make him an appointment immediately. Ended up having 3 teeth pulled. Then this guy tries to blame it on us because we never told him about it. We had x-rays of it over the last 5 years as well as notations in his chart, along with numerous copies of referrals to a specialist to take care of it. Not my fault you don't listen, sir. I'm very happy nothing worse happened to him, but it could have been really bad. The balls of some patients. Had a woman who was referred to a gun specialist 2 years prior for her upper right pocketing that wasn't improving. Notes over the years, till she refuses to clean that area interdentally as it hurts to her hygienist. Dentists have warned her of the risks of tooth loss, but after one consultation with the specialists he refused to get treatment. So part gets kicked from NHS for failed appointments, but still attends private cleans. Note still not cleaning said area. Gets pain and problems to come in privately with different dentist who tells her the same about her gum disease. She straight up shouts how she has never been told she has gum disease and was sick of people telling her to clean her teeth and was gonna sue for letting this happen to her. Manager took none of it. Had ample proof she ignored advice, and she was responsible in her oral health outside her appointments with us. Engulfment and confined spaces. With confined spaces, people usually don't realize that O2 runs out rather quickly. Engulfment because people probably don't think about essentially drowning in non-liquids. Flowing solid materials don't even have to cover your nose to asphyxiate you. Anything above belly button level will slowly constrict your diaphragm each time you breathe out. Just like a boa constrictor. I fell into a deflashing vat of shirt buttons once when I was about 13 years old. My dad was the plant manager of a shirt button factory in Knoxville, Tennessee back in the early 1980s. He and I were there on a Saturday morning. He was doing paperwork and I was exploring the plant. Got to the section where the deflashing tanks were and tried to lean over and scoop up a handful of buttons. Lost my balance and fell in. It was about 5 to 6 feet deep, but filled with plastic shirt buttons. I went all the way to the bottom. I was able to stand up and stand on the top of the mixing blades that were turned off. Took forever to get out. The buttons squeezed me as I tried to move. Scariest moment of my life. I don't even let my kids do the whole bury me in sand at the beach thing. Terrible memories of that. Quitting antidepressants cold turkey after regular use. Ps. Did cold turkey Prozac, olanzapine. Right now tapering Lexapro, escitalopram from 20 mg to 2.5 mg now. And worst evil cold turkey of all time awards goes to benzodiazepines and pregabalin, Lyrica. Took clonazepam always. Quitting these medicines cold turkey 99% of the time gives you a seizure. I had two. But guess what, I'm already epileptic. So more seizures you Thank you for awards and upvotes. Ps. People saying taking antidepressants at first place is bad for you. No, it's not. It saved my life. I didn't know I had depression, but I stopped eating, had extreme stomach issues, gas, acid reflux etc. Lost 15 kg weight in 30 days, stopped eating at all. I have seen 5 gastroenterologists, so many tests like endoscopy, colonoscopy, liver function, blood, stools etc. Everything was normal. Suffered whole year, I was close to death. Then I was recommended a psychiatrist, she told I had somatization. Meds started working from day first. I felt happy and started to eat. Gained all that weight back in again 1 month. That weight losing and gaining thing was like some Christian Bale thing. Haha. God, I remember my roommate spaced on getting hers refilled a few years ago, figured she could wait until her day off, when she had time. I had to break into her room and get scissors away from her as she tried to harm herself. It's no joke. Insulin. Looking at drops on a table, you can barely tell the difference between the therapeutic dose and a lethal one. Edit: if anyone can find the actual image of 2 doses of insulin on a table, I'd super appreciate it. I was going to post the link for reference, but I couldn't find it. As a diabetic it's a little scary, but luckily the cure is just eating sugar. And you can feel your blood sugar dropping low long before you're in real danger of dying. Unless you took some astronomical dose or something. Some patients can't feel their lows. Those people are terrifying to treat sometimes because increasing their dose could drop them and they wouldn't know. That's when I start to reach for a continuous glucose monitor, but those can be expensive sadly. My cousin just died from this. Type 1 and took care of it very well. Came home, laid on couch, and asked for blanket. Boyfriend brought blanket, and she was gone. With type 1, it can happen without a lot of warning. I've been researching a lot since this happened. So sad. Touchscreen consoles in cars. Mazda now disables touch functionality in their vehicles because they found that when drivers interact with the touchscreen they drift the vehicle to the right, taking your eyes off the road to press 3 buttons in 3 different positions on the touchscreen with a latency each time you press a button because your seat heaters are literally burning your while trying to maintain control of the vehicle during freeway traffic is goddamn dangerous. Screens in vehicles in general for anything other than reverse cameras and the speedometer etc. are dumb. Reverse cameras could be displayed through the speedometer display, which is electric in most newer vehicles anyways. You could also set up Bluetooth through the same display and utilize media controls built into the steering wheel. The trend of center console tablets is one. Doubly so because they all seem to have their own operating system. Windows. It's easy to think they are more secure than they actually are, which is especially dangerous in taller buildings. Falling through a broken window has a very high risk of a major laceration. Broken glass on the floor can again mess your body up spectacularly, and on certain surfaces it's really hard to spot even moderately sized razor sharp pieces. Edit: LPT for those living in areas that are earthquake prone. Keep a pair of slippers or sandals by your bedside. If there is an earthquake during the night, the chances are you will have picture frames that fell and shattered around your home, and you should have something hard-soled to walk on in that situation. Edit 2. Be a thoughtful human. If you break something made from glass, don't just toss the broken glass. Put it into a cardboard box, tape it so it's sealed, and write broken glass on the box. My parents use layers of newspaper and tape it up. You have no idea who might handle the bag with your rubbish in. When my mom were young she tried to open a glass door that was swinging closed by putting up hand and placing it on the window part. According to her she didn't even feel the pain at first or notice the glass break until it hit the floor and she looked down. She almost bled to death on the spot. The only reason she survived is because the person in front of her who had walked through the door was her dad and knew he had to tie a tourniquet and put pressure on the wounds. Weirdly enough her hand has almost no scars, but her arm has 8 to 10 really big scars that run the entire length of her arm, all around it, and probably 30 plus smaller scars spread all over, going in all directions. It looks really gnarly today. I can't even imagine what her arm looked like when it happened. Liquid oxygen. It allows fire to reach such insane heat that it will burn through steel. Not melt. Burn. It doesn't need to be liquid, just oxygen gas at like 20 C will do it. That's how oxyacetylene torches cut steel, by heating it and then shooting a stream of oxygen through it that burns the steel. Edit. Another deadly fact about oxygen. Too much oxygen is actually toxic and can cause seizures. Breathing pure oxygen at sea level is fine, but increase the pressure by 1.6 times, and it can cause oxygen toxicity, which is a major factor when it comes to calculating gas mixtures for technical or commercial diving, because if there's too much oxygen in the mixture, oxygen toxicity isn't deadly in and of itself, but having a seizure while scuba diving can cause you to spit out your regulator among other things. Edit 2. Actually I was mistaken. Oxygen toxicity can kill you in and of itself. It's also absurdly dangerous otherwise. Apollo 1 was destroyed. While NASA was still testing what type of atmosphere to use in spaceflight, they had decided to test a pure 100% oxygen environment for Apollo 1. One tiny spark and the entire cabin burned out in seconds. Horses. They weigh 1,200 pounds, they're extremely jittery, and they can crush you or kick you to death on accident. And that's just horses in general. Stallions will try to hurt you just to assert dominance. And these are animals that have been known to bite each other's throats out when they fight. Don't mess with horses unless you know what you're doing. Always be careful, even if you do. A friend of mine from school always had horses and was a truly excellent rider. She lived her life around horses, rode competitively, the whole deal. 1 year out of school, we heard she died, got kicked in the chest, I believe attempting to get a nervous horse out of the float. So absolutely sad and definitely reinforced for me how much care to take. I'm also reminded of a relief teacher we had missing a finger, apparently bitten by a horse, when she was younger. Deer. Over 120 people a year die from deer directly, and another 175 to 200 from car accidents caused by deer, with some 10,000 injuries, and more deaths and injuries related to deer hunting. By the way, deer are pretty mean and terrible parents. I have seen a deer push her fawn ahead of her near the food to see if there is a predator. Then, if the fawn is okay, go out and hit the fawn to get at the food herself. In the same vein, hitting a moose with your car has a 13x higher chance to result in human death than hitting a deer. They are actually considered one of the deadliest animals in North America, since they can literally throw your car off the road with their antlers. You are much less likely to encounter one, but it's way more fatal if you do. Moose have a much higher center of mass though. The bulk of their entire body is windshield height, compared to deer which are shorter. Deer are more often thrown to the side or under the car when hit by the bumper. When you hit a moose, or elk or horse, etc., you are usually driving full force into their body, sending a giant meat torpedo straight through the windshield into your face. Garage door springs. They will kill you. Please elaborate. I've never given these things a second thought. Had to redo ours recently. They're big and really tightly wound. They're designed to hold a majority of the weight, so the motor doesn't have to be monstrous. But resetting/changing them requires unwinding them turn by hand, which is a full 85 kg body weight, with leverage, job. If you aren't really careful you lose control, and they'll break you with your lever tool. I consider myself pretty handy and mechanically inclined. I was just making an adjustment to save the $120 service charge and a spring let loose. Ripped the wrench out of my hand, smacked me in the fingers with it twice, and then threw it across the garage and into the drywall like a goddamn throwing knife. I broke 2 fingers and paid the $120 happily. Machines. If you get casual around them, they will eat you. Oh, the videos I've seen of people getting stuck in machines. Shudder. Stay safe around equipment. Even very small electrical motors will seriously injure you. I work on a flight simulator and we use motors for feedback on the controls. If the force transducers die or get messed up, they don't care if your hand or leg or foot is in the way. We've done safe experiments to prove a point. You have whoever thinks they are strong try and hold back the motor while making sure there aren't any pinch or break points for them to get caught on. The motors don't even struggle. Not even a change in pitch of the whine from the motor. Very humbling to understand how little power we as humans actually make and can withstand. Stress. One of the deadliest things out there. It contributes to and exacerbates many existing health problems, not to mention creating new ones. What's the best way to deal with it though? I always hear how dangerous stress is. I'm stressed out to the maximum thanks to work. I don't really have any options on removing the stressors, so how can I decrease my stress level? I like to find tiny things I can control. I know it sounds silly, but choosing my favorite coffee mug, my music in the car, my special brand of tea, my favorite scent of shampoo, etc. all kind of stacks up. Like if you get to choose your own thing 20 times a day, even if it's really mundane things, you get a little boost in your brain that's like, hey, I have control over some stuff. And that helps me, anyway. Fights. People are way too eager to prove who's the bigger badass. Hit someone the wrong way, or start something with the wrong person and someone's not going home. Then if the police show up, someone's getting charged. Depending on the severity of the other party's injuries and the word of witnesses, you could be going away for a very long time. Not to mention the civil suites that may bury you in debt. Yup. I got sucker punched right above my left eye, 6 stitches and a fractured orbital socket, and had to stay overnight at the hospital for observations, since it was a head injury. Since the injuries were from an charges were automatically pressed, and we found ourselves in court a few months later. All from a single punch. What happened to the perp? Did you at least get some sort of redemption? I believe he got community service plus a whole bunch of conditions. It was a huge black mark on him, since he was an up-and-coming hockey player. Probably wasn't going to be drafted, and this really didn't help. It was a pretty big size mismatch, since he had at least 60 pounds on me. I'm an animal control officer, so I have to say dogs. The majority are friendly and sweet. But I've seen some really dangerous dogs and bite cases. The worst was a little black Staffordshire Terrier who ripped the elbow sockets out of a man. He was rushed to surgery, but he'll be alright in the long run. Or another with a 7-month-old baby who got in the way of a food-aggressive dog and had to have brain surgery. If a dog is big enough, it can absolutely kill you with enough intent. People tend to forget this and put themselves between two dogs fighting. This is the reason for like 80% of my bite cases, dogs were fighting, or were about to, and the owner thinks they can break it up. To be fair, a good dog owner will intervene to stop their dog or to control it if it is being aggressive. If it's that aggressive, it shouldn't be around others. Mental at any age. It doesn't matter if you think it's a joke or if others are doing it too. You have no idea what people are going through, and that one comment could be what pushes them over the edge. Even more so, if it's a comment on something they are insecure about, or if you're not the only one saying it, or if it's repetitive. Note, do not pick fights with strangers, especially over petty things. More people are mentally unstable than you realize, and will do something lethal in a fit of rage. Run you over with their car, grab a knife, beat you with something until you're dead. There's no need to save the day, or prove you were right. It's not worth it. Just move along. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.